Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be the part 2, the follow-up of the Injen cold air intake install. I did one video showing that I bought this and some of the reasons why, and when installing it, some of the things that to look for that's not in the video. I did say that American Muscle makes a video showing in-depth install of this Injen intake, but and I mentioned that there is a on the bottom of this intake where the air comes up through the fender well into the intake and through the intake and into the throttle body. On the very bottom of this, there is a kind of a seal that comes in the kit that doesn't mention installing that in the instructions, and it doesn't even mention it on the American Muscle video, but it's extremely important. If you watch the guy on the American Muscle video, when he's touching this box, it's wiggling extremely a lot. And if you don't install that the piece that goes on the bottom of this intake that fits in the fender well that closes this box off, it'll wiggle. But when you install that rubber piece that goes around the bottom, which I'll show you an example of it on the old box where it's going to install, and I may even have mentioned it in the first video, if you don't install that, this thing is going to wiggle extremely a lot, and you're going to have a gap between the box and the hole that comes up through the fender well for the air to come in as you're driving down the road. The wind comes through that this snorkel on the through the fender well, through this box, and into your intake, and you're not going to get the full benefits of the air intake. But what I wanted to show you is, for example, this is the stock tube that comes with the air intake on like a 2009 to a 2014 Challenger RT 5.7 liter. And as you can see, it's very restrictive. There's a lot to it, and there's not a whole lot to this Injen. And then you have all this right here that's air restrictive, and it to me, in my opinion, it will restrict the air when it's coming in. It needs to be like a smooth surface. As you can tell, this is a lot bigger around, and a lot more air will come through this because it's just smooth on the inside and it's not rigid, and it's just a bigger, better intake. If I wished I had shown the inside of this thing, but you'd only been able to look in through here, and but anyway, it's just a bigger box and has a lot more airflow just because of the way it's made, and because I have a Diablo Trinity T2 EX Platinum tuner that's telling me how much more airflow and everything this thing has with it. I can actually look at the gauges and tell a big difference in the airflow just by looking at the gauges. But let's go back here to my dirty shop, and I'm going to show you the if you see how big this box is. I wished I could show you the inside. It's a lot bigger, but let me show you the bottom part of the box that you need to make sure if you order an Injen that you install this rubber piece on the bottom, or it's not going to fit right. So let's walk back here real quick. You have to mind this, the looks of this thing back here, but this is a stock 2013 airbox, and as you see, it serves its purpose. I had a K&N filter in here, and I could tell it helped out with the throttle response a little, but nothing compares to this Injen, what it does. But on the bottom of that Injen, or actually any airbox, you're going to have this right here, and that's exactly what the bottom of that Injen looks like. And there's a piece of rubber that snaps on here and seals this off to the fender well where the snorkel comes up through the fender well, and as you're driving down the road, it's forcing air through the snorkel and the fender well and down into your airbox, or up through your airbox. It's sitting in there like this. And if you don't put that on there, which the American Muscle video does not show that, and the instructions doesn't mention it, and if you go to install without it, you're going to have, that thing's going to be wiggling around in there. It's not going to seal up, and you're not going to get the benefits of the airbox or the cold air kit. It's one thing to remember, and I think I was mentioning that in the first video, and somehow I got cut off, and which I'd actually made a video, part 2 of this, and it got lost. I actually went out and did some pulls to prove that it helped my 60-foot times, or 0 to 60 times, excuse me. Before the airbox with the K&N air filter in here, I was running like 5.6s, 5.7s, 5.8s, to 0 to 60, and I ran about 5 or 6 runs on the video that got deleted, and I got it all the way down to a 4.8, and I was still spinning out of the hole a little bit, and I was using traction control on and off, and I kind of launched different ways to see if I could, you know, do a little bit better, but traffic was so bad I wasn't able to get but just a few pulls in, and I had a best of 4.8, so I went from like 5.6s, 5.7s, 5.8s down to like a, you know, 4.8, 4.9, and a 5.0, and that's just with the Sarah box. But I wanted to say something else, that if you are familiar with the Diablo tuner, the T2 Trinity EX Platinum, the kit, when you buy it, they have two stages. They have one where you can just buy the tuner, and let me show you what the tuner looks like. Most of you that has a tuner, you're going to know what I'm talking about, and this is a very important upgrade. If you're going to start modding your car, you're going to have one of these. And if you buy this, and I don't know, you know, what happened, but when I installed that engine airbox and ran it for a while with just a 93 tune, and I didn't change any perimeters whatsoever in it, and like I said, I can tell a very noticeable difference. And some people are like, oh, you know, there's no way you can tell a big difference with, you know, 15 or 20 horsepower. They say 25 or to 30, upwards to 30. But I could in throttle response, and I could in my 0 to 60 times. And if you're thinking about buying an air intake, I did a lot of research, and there were some that saying that, as I explained in the first video, that some of the boxes that you buy for the cold air boxes that you buy for, you know, I think it's like 09 through 2014, some of them wouldn't fit because of the OE headlight assembly was getting in the way of the install. And just make sure when you order a box, you do research and you read all the way down to the bottom, because, you know, I have ordered things to where it said it would fit my car, but if you didn't read all the way down to the very bottom, you'd find out after you order it and got it in that there was something that it had in the bottom, but will not. You know, there's this thing in bold letters down at the bottom, but will not fit. You know, like the Chaos muffler delete kit I bought. You know, it said it would fit my car, and, you know, everything was good, but down at the very bottom it said for a manual. So the manual muffler delete was like a different size tubing than the automatic car. So pay attention when you're ordering things. Read all the way down at the bottom. Don't get too excited like me and just pull the trigger on something and get it in, and then you just have to make it work. Luckily, I had a son who had a welder and was able to weld everything up for me and make it fit. And I love that muffler delete by Chaos. But anyway, back to this discussion. When, you know, I got this tuner, as I mentioned, the Diablo T2 EX Platinum. This is not the 50 state legal one. Don't get that one unless you live in a state where they have laws preventing you to have certain mods on your car, like emission laws. Alabama doesn't have emission laws that affect you from doing upgrades, like, let's say, California. And so make sure there's go back and watch my video on the differences of these tuners. There's like 3 different tuners. One that you just utilize gauges, and it doesn't have tuning capabilities. The other one is 50 state legal, where you only get like up to a 91 octane tune. And the EX Platinum is, you can have all the way up to a 93 tune and do all this tuning and mods, and it's the same price too for either one of them, except for the one that comes with just the gauge, where you just have the gauge usage for it. It's just, you know, you can buy one of these, looks just like that, but all you can do is just utilize gauges, which in my opinion is a waste of money. But that's just my opinion. But anyway, when I bought this engine cold air intake from American Muscle, I decided to buy it because I watched a lot of videos on open box and closed box intakes. So let's talk about that a second. One thing that kills these cars, these Mopars, is heat soak. And that's with a lot of engines. So if you're buying these open boxes, and that's what you want, and you're getting gains, and you did your research, and that's just what you decided to do, then that's all good. But a lot of these open boxes doesn't have this sealed up. And how it fits, how it seals off is when you close the hood down, they have a rubber seal that fits around here that seals off on the hood. And that's just how it seals. And in my opinion, if your hood's not all the way down, or you got a small gap or whatever, and you're driving out to Mexico to race, and you do a few pulls, in my opinion, especially in the summertime, there's heat getting around this box and going in here, and you're pulling all the air from this hot engine into that box, and you're losing horsepower. And a lot of these dyno guys and performance shops, and I've watched videos where people using open box dynos and closed box dynos, they're getting better throttle responses and more horsepower out of these closed box. And that's why I went with the Injen for mine, because the fitment, and according to all these performance shops and dyno runs and stuff, it's a better box. So that's just my decision. You can make your own. And but I will tell you that when you're buying this Trinity, they have two stages in there. They have one that you can just buy the Trinity EX Platinum, just a tuner, and you can buy your own cold air intake box. But they offer a kit that you can buy where you get the tuner and a cold air intake called the Jammer, and it comes with a tune in the tuner for that Jammer. So what I noticed is after, and it wasn't when I bought this tuner, that Jammer tune was not in here. When you go in, I went all through this tuner and it wasn't in there. But as soon as I installed that Injen cold air intake, and I went back into features and was looking at different tunes, well, somehow a Jammer tune showed up in this thing. So I don't know if when I installed that air box, the parameters changing with more throttle response, more air coming in, that this tuner picked up that, hey, maybe this guy has the Jammer intake, and it I guess it opened up a new feature for the Jammer cold air intake tune, and it was in there. So I got to looking at the Jammer and saying, well, what if I downloaded this Jammer cold air intake tune and just went ahead and downloaded it for this Injen airbox? What would be the, what would it hurt? And I got to looking, I'm like, well, you're really not adding any sensors. Jammer doesn't come with any sensors. It's basically the same as this Injen as far as what comes in a kit, other than the Jammer's an open box and mine's a closed box, and the filters are about the same size. If you look at the filter I have and the filter that comes with the Jammer, it's about the same size. And all of the tubing, the elbows and all that stuff, everything is the same. They don't send you any extra sensors or plug-ins or anything that's going to show that this tuner, that, hey, this is in fact a Jammer. In my opinion, when I was looking at my closed box intake from Injen and the Jammer, a lot of the features were the same, like the tubing and all that stuff. The only difference was mine's a closed box, the Jammer's an open box. Until you close the hood, then it's supposed to be like almost, it's supposed to be like replicating a closed box. But when I installed that tune in there, I didn't get any trouble codes. I didn't get anything indicating to me that that was a bad idea, other than I could tell a huge, I'm talking huge difference in my throttle response. And my best time after I downloaded that was like in the 4s. I went from 5.0s to like 4 mid 4s to like, my best time with that when I downloaded that after I did the first trial was like 4.5, 4.7s, and 4.8s. So it was a big difference, and I still have not been able to launch this car, no matter how I've tried to do it, either paddle shifter, manual, traction control on or off, able to get my car to stop spinning. And I got like Toyo Proxy Street 3s on the back, the 295 45/20s, which I wished I had went with like a 295 35/20, because it would be a wider profile, which I'm gonna, when I wear these down, I'm gonna do it. But I'm still spinning, and spinning ain't winning. And I'm gonna let the air out of the tires and do some more pulls and stuff, see if I can't get it on down to a like a low, like 4.3 or 4.4, which I believe I can with a little practice. But this is kind of a part two, like I said, and I know it's a long video. of just an engine intake install. But if you're you're like me and you're just kind of learning as you go, and you don't know much about these cars or much about upgrades and stuff, maybe this video helped you out explaining some things to you a little better, to give you a little better decision making when buying you an airbox. I would like the AFE airbox, but as I explained in the first video, they may make an airbox for this car, but I couldn't find one. And when I read the fine print all the way down at the bottom, it said will not fit my Challenger RT if it has the OEM headlight assembly. It's supposed to affect the install, and I don't know how, because I looked at an AFE airbox and it looks a lot like this Injen airbox as far as fitment goes, but who knows. I just didn't buy it because of that. And maybe they do have it, so kind of check into that, or actually call the company. I called the eBay website from the people that was actually selling this engine, or not the engine, but the AFE box that I was looking at, and they said it wouldn't work because of the OEM headlight assembly in this car. But anyway, hopefully this helps you out some. If you have any questions or concerns, just let me know. And if you like the video and you like some of the content, like and subscribe, and definitely ask questions. I don't care if it's a negative question or whatever it is you want to ask, but hopefully some of the explanations I gave for this will help. I can't explain why my Trinity, my tuner here, my Diablo Sport tuner here, just all of a sudden after installing this airbox had a jammer tune in it, which is the name of the cold air kit that Diablo Sport sells. I don't know how that got in there. I don't know if it just read it and unlocked a feature in it, thinking that maybe I bought the jammer because of the increase in the throttle responses and airflow. But it was in there, and it wasn't in there before. I promise you. I looked. And but after I installed that tune, I could tell a huge difference in my throttle response and my 0 to 60 times. So, but I do plan on doing some data logging with this thing and sending it to Diablo to see what they think about it. I did have a short-term knock and a long-term knock a couple of times on when I first took off in this thing. A couple of times it got up to like a yellow 4, yellow 5 on both of them, and I am going to send some data to them and see what they think's going on here. But from what I understand, it's kind of common in these things. But I do have the 93 octane tune with that jammer cold air intake tune, and that's what I have in here so far. Next mod is either going to be long tube or short tube headers. I just wanted to wait till after the New Year's. I'm saving up now for it. It's going to cost me anywhere from $500 to $600 unless I buy them used. I did find a set of long tube JBAs, still brand new in the box, and a guy wanted $450 for it in the area I live in. Thinking about buying it. I don't know. I kind of want to buy new, so if something happens, I can send it back and get my money back or exchange it. You buy them from an individual, you never know what you're getting. Another thing is trying to figure out if I have the D-shaped, what they call the D-shaped heads, or there's another set of heads that comes on these cars that's like kind of like a round port head. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it makes a big difference when buying headers. I cross-referenced the part number this guy had, and it said it would fit my car, but I want to make 100% sure when paying $450 for a set of headers that I may or may not be able to use. But anyway, hopefully this helped you guys out. Hopefully it was informative and entertaining. If you're trying to make a decision on the intake, hopefully this helped you. And again, this is Paul Bart's Garage. If you like the videos, please like and subscribe and comment. And y'all have a good weekend, and peace out. Bye.